Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Speaker Brains with the most unprofessional music critics on the internet, Travis, Zach, and Josh. And we are rolling. What's up, y'all? This today is me and our good buddy John Short, and it's not a Frank Zappa video or podcast, actually.
Because kind of like what happened with the Lana Del Rey, we talked about it and we were like, I don't really want to listen to like all like 9 live albums he did, because like the worst is over in terms of Zappa.
Yeah.
But like there's a rocky stretch where he just put out live album after live album after live album, and they weren't bad, but
yeah, they're all good.
But they're kind of a chore to sit through all at once.
I mean, fuck, they're all 2 discs long and packed to the brim, but all the performances are, as you'd expect, top fucking notch, but goddamn.
So we're talking about Tom Waits instead.
Yeah.
We've been talking about doing a Tom Waits retrospective since about like episode like 2 of Zappa.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while. And
I kind of like Zappa. We're gonna split it up because there's 2 halves to Tom Waits' career.
yeah. And it would just
They're
be
pretty distinct.
Yeah, definitely. And it would just be more fun to split it up because, you know, we have 8 albums to talk about right now as far as the first half of his career, but then I think there's like 14 after on the second half, and so by the time we get to the albums that I know I really want to talk about, I'm going to be at the point where I'm just slogging through and like, you know, forgetting what I want to say. So this is really the best route.
Because like early Tom Waits and later Tom Waits they're not quite different artists, but they easily could be.
Yeah. Because what I do love is in the early Tom Waits albums is you can hear him on every album, at least after the Hardest Saturday Night I almost said Saturday Night Live, the Hardest Saturday Night. You can hear a slight evolution into what he would eventually be doing.
Yeah, that's what I was noticing, because like prior to the day before yesterday, I had only heard like maybe 2.5 of these albums, and I was blown away at how much, like, because like everybody I'd ever heard talk about Tom Waits would be like, it's a clean break between Heart Attack and Vine and Swordfish Trombones. It's like 2 different artists, man. And in a sense it is, but in another sense, you know, I listen to Heart Attack and Vine, and I'm like, there's a lot of DNA carried over from that album to Swordfish Trombones.
Yeah, definitely.
And even though Tom Waits like gets really weird and drops a lot of the stuff he does in the early days, like the really sappy ballads, he still does today, to this day.
And you know what's crazy is, for some reason, those sappy ballads on the second half of his career work for me way better than the early ones. Some of them on the early ones I do love, but I guess it's really, the best way to describe it is his voice. You start getting hints of that voice on Nighthawks at the Diner, but then it comes full force on Small Change, and then the biggest change with Swordfish Trombone on up is it's mostly just the instrumentation that's been changed up. Like all that smooth fuck jazz and white man blues is gone, and it's traded up for spooky ass bone orchestra kind of shit.
Well, I was gonna say it's. I think on his later albums it depends because like, sometimes I have to grow to like his ballads, like not to jump ahead, but when you get to Bone Machine,
yeah,
and like Bone Machine will have these amazing like avant blues kind of tracks, but then you'll get a country ballad every other song, just about.
Yeah, like
And
I think Mule Variations does that pretty heavily because like you get all this crazy shit, like Chocolate Jesus and stuff like that, and Cold Water, but then you'll get something like The House That Where Nobody Lives, and it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was. I feel like that was just like '90s Tom Waits in general, with the exception of that. Come on up with the Black Rider.
Oh yeah, god damn it! The Black Rider is fucking amazing. Oh my god.
But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. So
Yeah.
how did you first hear about Tom Waits?
How I first heard about Tom Waits, it was mostly through Primus. When I was a kid, you know, my dad, he was always playing, there was 3 Primus albums my dad played out when I was between the ages of like 7 going through 10 or 11. My dad played out Seas of Cheese, Pork Soda, and Tales from the Punch Bowl. And I remember when I was a little kid, when he was playing out Seas of Cheese, I remember my brother and I used to run around singing Tommy the Cat. And I remember thinking that voice was funny. Like, I was like, this is a funny voice. And then I was about, almost 14? Or maybe I had turned 14, and I bought Antipop when it came out. And one of my favorite tracks on there was Coattails of a Dead Man. I just loved the pirate fucking voice on there. And I'm like, who the fuck is this? And I find out it's Tom Waits. And then through the years I find, okay, Tom Waits is also the guy who did the weird voice on Tommy the Cat. And then my dad, one Christmas, I think I was about 17, he got me fucking, what is it? This is what always fucks my memory. I normally have a immaculate memory, but this is where I'm kind of fucked. It was either Tom Waits used songs or Tom Waits Mule Variations, and I cannot remember which one it was, but I remember not getting into it. And fucking, because I was at the height of my, like, I'm a metal kid. And so, so it wasn't, so what?
No, recently I did that Panic at the Disco episode, and I put that joke in about, that I think we could both relate to, about, like, when I got into angsty music, I listened to more embarrassing, but heavier music, and I put in a little clip of Disposable Teens.
Yeah. Seriously. So it wasn't until, I think around 2009 when I started, really jumping on his stuff. And I think it was last year, I finally bought the last album I needed of his to complete his collection, because it would like be every couple of years I'd get about 3 or 4 and then move on to something else. It took me a long time to about 10 years from the moment I started collecting his shit. Because he's somebody I don't want to burn myself out on. Like, I'll go on a buying spree for a lot of bands, and then other bands I I'll get their stuff in slower increments. But that's about how it was. But I do have a funny story on when I first started buying Tom Waits albums, but I'll get into that when we get to that album. So, how did you get into Tom Waits?
Well, first off, I got into Tom Waits a lot later, which, I mean, goes without saying, there's like a decade between us, but I think probably the first time I really knew who Tom Waits was 2014 or 2015, and it was also through Primus. I went on a crazy Primus binge in like 2014 or 2015, burned myself out on them for a long time. I think I didn't touch a Primus album for most of 2016, and it took until their new one came out for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna listen to these guys again. But anyway, like you said, I noticed the weird voice on Tommy the Cat, and I was like, Tom Waits. I've been hearing that name because around that same time, I was heavily getting into Captain Beefheart.
Yeah.
And Frank Zappa, and people, whenever critics would write about Captain Beefheart, they were like, Captain Beefheart, an obscure performer known to mostly today as a proto-Tom Waits. And that would kind of annoy me because I'm like, Captain Beefheart is like a genius in his own right.
Yeah.
But and then you get to, like you said, anti-pop, and, you get to the Coattails of a Dead Man, which is basically a straight-up Tom Waits song.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a Tom Waits song with Primus doing the instruments, and that's kind of how I feel about a lot of this stuff on anti-pop. It's almost like Primus, Supernatural, like by Santana, where they brought in all the hip people of the time and were like, make us some hits, people.
Yeah, what's funny about that
but
is Primus is one band that damn sure didn't need that at the time, but not gonna lie, having some of those famous people behind the board kind of gave them a bit of a new heavy energy that I just fucking loved.
I hate to give him any credit, but like the Fred Durst track is fucking amazing.
Yeah, right? Like damn, fuck, Durst, you could do some good shit. Out of one out of 100 things he does.
Limp Bizkit suck then?
1 out of 100 things he does is like awesome, and then the rest is like,
everything
else. Fred.
Well, anyway, so a couple years go by. I'm like, I should check out Tom Waits, because this is about the time that I don't remember what exactly prompted me to buy Tom Waits. I think it's funny that you are also kind of murky on some things, because I definitely am too. There were like 4 different critics I was following at the time, up to and including you guys, who really liked Tom Waits. So I think any of them could get that credit. But at some point, I was up at one of my record shops, and I saw Rain Dogs for like $5. And I picked it up. I really liked it. I didn't listen to it as much as I might, because that was when I was really checking out the 90s Flaming Lips.
Mm.
But I got Swordfish Trombones like a month later, and to tell you the truth, I was a little disappointed at the time. Nowadays I might actually like Swordfish Trombones a little better, but 2016, John, was like, why? I was like, I want some crazy stuff. Why is he doing all this ballad stuff of in the neighborhood? This video is gonna be full of bad Tom Waits impressions.
In the neighborhood. Yeah, that's all the music I make.
Else of his is
Oh.
until like late 2018 or early 2019, and that was when I bought I think on the same day I bought all of his 90s stuff of Bone Machine, The Black Rider, and Mule Variations. And then I've been slowly picking them off over the last year.
Ah. Yes. Yes.
Indeed.
But it's crazy to think that he's only had 3 albums in the 90s.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he only had one album last decade.
Yeah, wow. Fuck. You're right. Oh, man. That dude needs to hurry up and give us one more before he dies.
Well, hopefully he doesn't die anytime soon.
But if he does die, I mean, at least Bad As Me is, man, still one of the best albums he's ever put out in his whole career. Isn't that weird?
It's definitely an album where you can look at it and be like, you know,
it's like everything has built up to that.
It's a damn good sum up of everything he's done to that point.
Yeah. Oh my god. So
the first Tom Waits album from March of '73.
Closing Time.
47 years ago.
Wow, Jesus God.
Or 48 technically, but in about 2 weeks' time. Little less. It's gonna be 47.
This album's almost...
Did I say 48? I meant 46.
Shit is almost fucking 50 years old, man. Fuck.
And it blew... I listened to this.
Closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can.
I know who I wanna take me home.
Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Yeah.
That is exactly what I think of whenever I hear that title, and I kind of hate that because I have that album. It's all right.
Yeah, it's a fun little album. I like, if you take songs from all 3 Semisonic albums, you've got one badass album. But all 3 albums kind of on their own are like, they're pretty good.
Yeah, it's funny that, like, you mentioned that because you called that stuff Dawson's Creek Rock, which I love.
Yeah. We got a new
this
one.
album by...
We got a new. I call it we got a new term for some shit. I call it CW rock.
Because this album, you know, I heard, 73 singer-songwriter, and even though it's Tom Waits, and I knew it was going to be good, I was expecting that it would be what a genre label that I've sort of coined myself, which is, I like to call it West Coast cocaine folk. And it's basically that, like, sort of slick, country-inflected, folky kind of music that was coming out of the West Coast in the early 70s. Because my theory is, I think, like, the hippie thing ended, and in America, the hippie thing ended, like, disastrously with the Altamont deaths, with the Manson cult, with the government, like, the FBI murdering people in their beds, real catastrophically. So my theory is, like, people were like, oh shit, man, this hippie shit's gone too far. We gotta have some shit that reminds us of our childhoods in the 40s and 50s, listening to westerns, hearing westerns, and that's why, like, country-inflected stuff was huge in America in the early 70s.
Damn sure was.
So I was expecting that. And when I didn't get that, it blew me away. Because, like, I'm going to say it, I adore this album. Like, I wasn't expecting to love this album this much, but this is, like, one of his best albums to me.
Yeah, this album is, when I first bought it, I bought this one late in the game. I think I bought this one around 2014. And at that point, I was not the biggest fan of his early stuff. I didn't really grow to love his early stuff until I started buying him more over the past couple years. But I think the only early album of his at this point that I had was Hard as Saturday Night. And so I was like, well, let's just get this out of the way. I saw it at Barnes and Noble, and it was like $10. So I was like, fuck it. And I was like kind of tripped out that it was a little more folk influenced than the smooth fuck jazz. Like, it's on there, but there is a more like a, not a country vibe, but there is a, what's the word, like
it's very slight.
Yeah, like it's very slight in there, but it's definitely, like, you hear a lot of the folk kind of vibes, especially on the first track, Old 55, which, goddamn, I love that song.
Well, I love the first two tracks, like Old 55 and then I Hope That I Don't Fall in Love With You.
Yeah.
Are just, those are probably my favorite tracks on the album. But to tell you the truth, though, when I looked this up on Wikipedia, I was like, this album's damn good, I want to know more about it. When I found out who produced it, I was not surprised. Because this was produced by Jerry Yester, who was the guy who, this is going to be one of your Frank Zappa connections for the day. Jerry Yester, along with his wife, Judy Henske, was signed, or then wife, was signed to Frank Zappa's Bizarre Records back in the 60s. And he and his wife put out this phenomenal album called Farewell Aldebaran.
Yeah.
That is like psychedelic folk mixed in with music hall stuff and like shit that uses synths in like 1969. And it's a phenomenal album. As a side note, I believe Jerry Yester is also in prison for being a pedophile now. So that's another connection like that. But I was not surprised when I learned about the production because I knew this is a producer who has put out some very solid stuff, sick monster though he may be.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to me that Old 55, I couldn't believe when I found out, I was like, damn, this was a Tom Waits song?
Freeway, cars, and trucks. Fucking love that song.
It's so good. It's so good. Because, like, I always knew the Eagles version, and I don't like the Eagles. I think they're mediocre at best.
Yeah.
But, like, they had some damn good singles over the years. And then when I put on the next album and found out the New Coat of Paint was also a Tom Waits song.
I mean, dude, like, I'm looking at this right here. I mean, oh my God. So many people, even to this day, cover the shit out of Tom Waits. I'm looking at, there's a list here on the Wikipedia page of people who have covered songs off of this album alone. 10,000 Maniacs, Hootie and the Blowfish, motherfucking
Tim Buckley.
Yeah, fucking Eagles, Bette Midler, and Meatloaf on Welcome to the Neighborhood. Like, what the fuck? Like, that is not a very good Meatloaf album.
I'm just picturing, like, the Jim Steinman pianos and, like, some big operatic flourish and Meatloaf being like, freeway, cars, and trucks. I bet you that's awful.
Oh man, yeah, he does Martha, and Martha, damn it, is like not coming to me as far as what the fuck that song sounds like. Oh my God. I need to turn that on for a second. I need to get a little refresher. Oh yeah, Yeah, okay, I like Martha. Martha's a cool ass track.
Well, it was even more like that when I got to Heart Attack and Vine last night, and then you get to it. Well, I forget how that song goes. The fell in love with a Jersey girl.
Yeah. God damn. And then what trips me out too is there are two female artists. I can never remember who they are, but they each have done full nothing but Tom Waits cover albums.
I know what you're talking about, and I also cannot think of who that is.
Seriously, and
then,
it's
annoying me because I read about it just recently.
I know, and even Queens of the Stone Age covered that track from God damn it, Bone Machine, the one about going out west. And I've heard the Queens of the Stone Age version of that, and man, they rock it out. Because already, like, the guitar on that song has a Queens of the Stone Age kind of vibe to it, and that's a cover track that I think Queens of the Stone Age really did hardcore. But I also like Ice Cream Man.
I think blew me. What?
I also like Ice Cream Man. I'm your ice cream man.
Oh yeah, well,
I'm a one-man band. But what were you about to say?
Well, I couldn't believe that was Tom Waits too, because a bunch of different people have covered that song.
Right? Isn't that crazy? Crazy as fuck.
Like all these people who you would never believe in a million years would be listening to Tom Waits.
Bat for Lashes covered a track. Like, what? Screamin' Jay Hawkins now has covered like a handful of his tracks. And he covered Ice Cream Man in '91 on his album Black Music for White People. Fuck, I love Screamin' Jay Hawkins. That man is fucking amazing. Hey, you gotta love a motherfucker who can do the Constipation Blues.
Oh yeah. Well, with Tom Waits, with Closing Time, what blew me away is that he doesn't have the Tom Waits voice yet. He doesn't have it at all.
Yeah. This is just album. That. This is like that early, like, I mean, even what's crazy is when you get to Heart of Saturday Night, his voice is slightly different. Like I said, each album kind of eventually moves to where we're going to eventually get.
Yeah. And it's like, not only is the Tom Waits voice not developed, but like the Tom Waits thing isn't really there either.
Yeah, like none of what this album lacks is something that definitely comes in full force on the next album. To me, the lyrics get better coming up, but his weird and odd descriptions of things are definitely not on here.
Well, what blew me away, and I can't tell whether this is just like, to me, I feel like when you move to the next album, I feel like his lyrics get a lot better.
Oh yeah.
And his charisma gets a lot better, but the music gets a little weaker, I feel like.
What's so weird is the next one does not sound as crisp as this one. For some reason.
No, it really doesn't.
For this album to be like a first album, especially in the early 70s, man, does it sound crystal clear. Like, there's like no fucking teeth to this production. It just sounds so... It's like they poured Mr. Clean on the board.
Well, it's funny because like this also has like, it has a lot less of the jazz, and I think I kind of like that.
Yeah, because it's a little different than what
I feel
eventually
like
becomes a staple.
Early stuff falls into this category where you're gonna have a jazz band and it's like dum dum doo 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 doo. Tom Waits is like, I'm gonna say some crazy things over the top of this jazz beat.
Oh yeah. That's
like Nighthawks at the Diner is like the most extreme example of that, but like all his early stuff after this album falls into that to some degree.
yeah, like for real. But those are tracks that I love. That's what I was talking about. Was like his weird description tracks where it's like,
oh yeah, no, I love those.
You got this. There's this fucking doom 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 boom boom doom doom, and fucking he's just like talking about this lighter on my table. It's talking to me all crazy.
Yeah.
I can't find my pants.
I feel like the songs are better defined here, and I feel like when you move past this album, as we're going to do in just a couple minutes, I feel like you lose a little bit of that really good songwriting, that really tight, well-constructed songwriting, and I feel like you don't really get it back until you get to Heart Attack and Vine.
Ah.
And even more so when you get to Swordfish Trombones. But, so that's my hot take for the day. Which is not to say that I dislike any of his early albums, because I tell you the truth, I love all of them.
Yeah. Like this man does not have one single bad album at all. He like you said,
he really doesn't.
Like you said, he's got some albums I don't play all the time, which I will say is pretty much all the albums that we're going to be talking about today, but I mean, like, none of them are bad, and to me, like, some of them get better as they go along, like, I mean, this is a decent little starting point. Now, when it comes to Tom Waits, like, you know, a lot of people, and me, I do like to go chronological when I start getting into an artist, but, I mean, when it comes to an artist like this, how do you recommend it? It's like, well, if you want what people know Tom Waits for, you know, start with Swordfish. Maybe even start with, like, Frank's Wild Years. But would you tell them, like, to possibly waste their money on any of these first 8 albums? Like, because Tom Waits is one of those artists where, like, you could easily overhype this dude and be like, oh man, it's so amazing, and let's say they accidentally buy fucking goddamn
Nighthawks at the Diner.
Yeah, and they're like, what the fuck is this shit, you know? Because that's about
I think Closing Time is one you can recommend to people, though.
Yeah.
I think there's enough there. I think that it's well done enough, especially for a debut.
Yeah.
That you could recommend this to people and they can get into it. You know,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people where this is their favorite of his.
Wow.
But they're not as into, like, the weird shit as we are.
Wow. I don't know anybody who prefers this Tom Waits over the other, but that's also because, like, everyone I know is around my age, and the only Tom Waits they were ever exposed to was the weird shit.
I was gonna say, a lot of people probably don't even know there is another Tom Waits.
Seriously. But, what would you rate this album, man?
Man, 8.5.
Oh, yeah,
That's what I'm
wow,
gonna
that's
give
pretty
this.
high.
8.5. Because it really surprised me because I'd heard tracks from this, but I'd never gone beyond the first couple songs, and when I did, I was blown away. So that rating could deflate over time, but right now, 8.5.
Right on. Right on. For me, it's gonna be a 7.
I can see that.
Yeah, because to me, it's especially out of his first 8 albums. It isn't my favorite at all. Like, it's good, but it is. I don't know. It's not as good to me as some of these other ones coming up.
I get that.
Yeah,
I get that.
Like, the songs I love, I fucking love. I mean, but it's one I definitely don't turn on all the time. But yeah, 7.
I don't turn Tom Waits' later stuff on all the time.
I mostly turn him on around Halloween, man. In October, like, the second half of his career fits October a lot. And weirdly enough, a lot of his albums that's when I would get into buying his stuff, was around the fall.
Huh.
Yeah. For some reason, like, his stuff just fits the fall for me. But,
So the next Tom Waits album, this is The Heart of the Saturday Night, or The Heart of Saturday Night.
now, here's my funny story. Speaking on when I said, how do you recommend Tom Waits to somebody? Do you tell them, hey, man, Tom Waits is so wild and crazy, and then somebody goes and buys something like The Heart of Saturday Night, which is what happened to me. When I when I first started buying his stuff, I was like, it was 2009, and I'm like, you know what, man, I need to check out some Tom Waits. I want some weird, crazy shit. I don't have enough weird, crazy shit. So I ordered Heart of Saturday Night on on eBay, and it came in, and I turned it on, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Are there two Tom Waits? Are two artists named Tom Waits? What the fuck is this? And I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, Luke Coat of Paint comes on, I'm like, what? I did not like this album at all when I first got it. I was like, man, this is garbage. I don't like this shit. But then about a couple months later, I don't know what it was, man. I was just driving. I was by myself, and I was just driving, and I turned it on, and I was like, man, like, every song was like doing it for me, and I was like, this is actually really fucking good. I was like, fuck, man, and like some of the tracks were like actually like making me feel emotional. Like, damn, I'm actually feeling these fucking lyrics, man. Especially San Diego Serenade. Holy fuck. That's a heavy song, like, emotionally.
We'll get to that, like, even more when you get to Small Change.
Oh, God, yeah. Man, I was like, these are some good fucking songs. And then, like, there's some really fun songs, man. Like, I love New Coat of Paint. That's, like, awesome as a motherfucker.
Yeah.
But then, goddamn, which one is that? Fumbling with the Blues, man. That's like my favorite track on here. Let me fumbling with the blues. Love that shit, dude. Goddamn, and it's hard to win when you always lose. Fucking love that shit. And Depot.
I love the
Fuck
vibe
Depot, huh?
this album
The what?
goes for. I love the vibe.
Oh, yeah. Just late night, 3 a.m, fucking hanging out, goddamn. In the, I don't know, there's this New York kind of 3 a.m. There's nothing but drunk people like laying down on benches with newspaper covering them up. It's cold as fuck, and you're just out there like trying to find something to do because you don't want to go home, and you're by yourself. You see a prostitute, like maybe not, fucking, I don't know, this is like...
Alcohol kind of clouding the judgment a little bit.
Seriously.
You got $2.50 in your pocket.
Yeah, there's such a grime to this album for something that sounds so lush.
Well, that's what I love, is like the album cover.
Yeah.
Which apparently, another Frank Zappa connection, Cal Schenkel was the art director for the album cover.
Ah.
It's a straight up tribute to Frank Sinatra's classic album, In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning.
Yeah.
Which is one of like, I love Frank Sinatra, but I'm a bigger fan of, like, Frank Sinatra had like 2 modes. He had like upbeat, happy, swinging Frank Sinatra, and then he had It's 2 a.m., My Wife Left Me, I've drank an entire bottle of Jack Daniels, and I'm about to commit suicide, Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, seriously. Talk about bipolarism in your music.
It's definitely the latter.
Oh, God.
But this is like like if Frank Sinatra is like a rich dude doing that. Like, this is definitely like the lower middle class to working class version of that.
Yeah, this is a man who's making $100 a week playing piano in seedy ass bars, and and making a living.
And spending that money on booze.
Yeah, spending that money on booze, but damn it, he's doing his thing. He's fucking doing his thing. This is great.
Oh, it is. And that's why I say this is where you start. This is the Tom Waits thing.
Yes, exactly. Your weird description tracks with diamonds on my windshield. The I'm gonna say all this weird shit over a fucking jazz background, and diamonds on my windshield, tears from heaven. It's colder than a whale digger's ass.
I can never remember how it goes, but I love that track.
Yeah, ba-doom doom 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 doom.
I remember the beat. I just don't remember what he says.
I know, dude, because he says so much all the time when he does these tracks. Let me turn this on for just a second.
Rain, and the wind bites my cheek through the wing, and it's these late nights and this freeway flying. Oh,
yeah, and the wind bites my cheeks, and it's like what I do love though is like I love how his weird description songs get creepier and creepier.
Yeah.
With like each album.
And then until you finally get to like the modern version of it where you get like, the ocean doesn't want me today.
Like, holy fuck, that is scary. I'll come again tomorrow to play. Well, I would love to go drowning and have my whole body covered in brine and like,
Even on that same album, when you get to the murder in the red barn, murder in the red barn.
Bro, there was a bar, they changed the name to Glory Days, but there was a bar in Phoenix City right across the bridge from us called the Red Barn, and there was a straight up murder there. Yes.
Tom Waits predicted the future, man.
Seriously, like straight up, man. And what's crazy is
Look at us laughing at a murder. You're awful people.
Dude, it's even worse because like it's a buddy of mine who's it was his uncle that was murdered. Like, oh shit! But I was like, there's a murder at the Red Barn, murder at the Red Barn. But yeah, straight up, just about maybe 7 years ago. Yeah. I was like, damn.
I mean, hell, it's like Curtis Mayfield said, if there's a hell below, we're all gonna go.
But yeah, even like, what's he building in there? He doesn't have any kids. Like, his shit gets creepy, man. Fucking love it.
It does. Well, it even gets creepy on some of these albums.
Yeah, like, because it's like, what are you talking about? Especially, like, I think the first time it gets scary creepy, like it could be something from a horror movie, would be like the one on Rain Dogs where he's like, and all the donuts have names of prostitutes, and when you sleep here you take on the dreams of the people who stay here.
No, the one where it's the first one where it gets creepy is the Frank's Wild Years song.
Oh god, yeah, dude. Fuck.
He always hated that dog. Just burns his house down with his wife and dog in it.
Oh my god. Oh, I can't wait to get there. Oh fuck, I can't wait to get there.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
So yeah.
So this album,
man,
I love it. The thing that messes me up with this album, and the reason I don't rate it as highly as the first one, is that I don't remember most of these tracks. Like it's one where when I put it on, I love it. And I'm like, this is such a good album. But when it's over, most of these tracks, like, go out of my head. And I hate that.
Yeah, the only ones that normally stick with me is, like, New Coat of Paint, San Diego Serenade. I mean, San Diego Serenade hits me, man. Just the way he's like, I never saw the sunrise till I moved on to the west, some shit like that, and it's like, never saw the morning till I stayed up all night. Fucking, man.
And I really like Semi-Sweet, too.
Yeah, Semi-Sweet's really good. And then
that has this cool, like, quietly swinging vibe that I dig.
And then, like I said, Diamonds on My Windshield, Fumbling with the Blues, and Depot. I love his delivery on Depot. Depot, Depot. Like, really fucking cool. But yeah, the rest of them, they all kind of blend together. You know, it's like small jazz orchestra stuff. And I mean, like, all the songs on here almost begin exactly the same. You know what I mean? Like,
they kind of do.
You get a little jazz, fucking small jazz orchestra flourish in there.
Maybe a little bit of piano in there somewhere.
Yeah, you know, like, all the songs almost kind of start off the same. And that's another thing that, like, eventually it just carries over to all the other albums where those songs all kind of start off the same too.
And I hate to say it, but there comes a point in his early career where the albums kind of start to sound the same.
They kind of do, especially moving up. Like once
you get past Small Change, like, he has like 3 albums in a row that sound very much alike.
Yeah, and when it gets to that point, I'm more hanging on to the tracks that are the ones that are moving closer to what he eventually starts doing. Because I'm like, okay, I've heard you do this before. Like, it gets interesting at first with these couple albums because you hear his change, and then when you hear his voice change, you're like, yeah, this is cool. But then when you get to, like, you know, Foreign Affairs and stuff, you're like, all right, you know, we're kind of just being the same as Small Change here, but damn, if you don't have a track or two on here that's like, hey, you know, are you about to meet Kathleen? Like, you know, is she about to introduce you to Captain Beefheart? Are we almost there?
Well, the crazy thing to me, and we'll talk about this more when you get to, like, I think it's Foreign Affairs that has that track. He was romantically linked with, like, so many talented people in this period. Like, he was never consistently with anybody, from what I understand, but, like, he was with Bette Midler for a minute.
Yeah.
I want to say he was with Ricky Lee Jones for a minute.
Damn. Now, the song he did with Bette Midler on Blue Valentine?
Foreign Affairs, I believe, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, that song is great.
So, you have anything more to say about this one?
I really don't. It's a damn good album, and I like it a lot more than the first album. Like, I just like the dirty, grimy feel of it, and like I said, there's few Tom Waits songs that hit me like San Diego Serenade does, and until we get to some of his ballads later on. But I think that, to me, is one of the ballads one of the few ballad songs on his early career where I'm like, this shit right here, man. But I give it an 8. I really do. I give it a full-on 8.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. You know what? I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
True.
And I'm going to give it that 7.5 mostly because I don't remember so many of these songs. Like, the first one has a lot of, like, great melodies that really cling to my mind, but this is one where, like, I feel like for a minute in the 70s, Tom Waits got really hung up on atmosphere.
Yeah.
And going for a vibe, and that's what his a lot of his early albums are about. And when you get that change in the 80s and he goes back to making stuff that's more about songs and integrating songs with that vibe, you know.
Yeah.
That's when I start to love Tom Waits. But yeah, 7.5 all the way.
True that. Now, his next album is one of those weird things, but it's also My favorite kind of live album, I call them the semi-live albums, where it's not technically a shitty live album that every other band does. This is a very intimate setting, just like in a small area. What is it? Where is this? A little. He wanted a jazz club atmosphere for his next album, Nighthawks at the Diner. And man, I think this album sounds fantastic. Cause you have this small intimate vibe to it. Like maybe there's like 30 people in there at the most. And he's just entertaining on his piano. This is another thing that is a Tom Waits thing, especially live. His newer stuff, nowadays he'll just play piano and ramble about weird shit. And you could see that this album kind of started that, because it's like he's just saying, I don't know if any of this material was rehearsed.
Yeah, I really don't either. Like, I love that. Like, this is for to erudite what you were saying. This is basically a fake live album.
Yeah, technically,
in the sense that it was not recorded out on tour. It was a gig that was set up in a studio like space where they set up some chairs, made a makeshift stage, hired a stripper.
Yeah.
Bought beers for everybody, but then they recorded what is effectively a studio performance, but live.
Yeah, love the shit out of it.
With a real sense of, it's like a slightly more authentic version of what Typo Negative did.
Yeah.
What was that, their second release?
Yeah, that Origin of the Feces.
I love that title.
Oh yeah, I do too. And what's so cool is about the fake live albums is, I hate to say it, they sound more live and better to me than most standard live albums. Maybe because of the intimate feel. Because I mean, take Origins of the Feces. Like, I don't know what they did with the production on there, but for some reason it sounds like it's outside at a shitty place that you would imagine Typo Negative to be playing at, and they're just jamming their ass off. And like with this one, it just sounds like you sound like you're part of the audience when you listen to this.
It really does, and that's like, this is one of those albums I put it on like once a year. But when I put it on, I'm like, I get into it. Like, I'm like, damn, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah, like for real.
Like, some of the stories he tells, like the intro to, what is that? I think my favorite is the intro to Better Off Without a Wife. Where he's like, well, he's something like, I play with myself. He's like, I'm not weird about it. I don't tie myself up or anything.
Those are some of my favorite parts on the album, are like the little intros before we get into the song, because I'm like, this right here, this is my fucking Tom Waits, man. I love
that where he's just rambling about weird stuff.
Yeah, man. I'm like, this right here, this is my guy. Just saying weird shit, just doodling on the piano with his buddies in the back playing. And, the audience is laughing, the audience is getting into it.
Yeah. It's definitely not a Tom Waits album you want to play around other people, necessarily.
Yeah, like, seriously. You can't have a party at your house and jam this album.
Oh my god, no you can't.
Like, no one's gonna be feeling it. This is a you and your buddies who like this stuff. You turn it on.
You have a beer and you turn it on.
Yeah. Maybe a little weed, man. Like, this is an album that, man, I wish I can still smoke weed, and because this is an album that Man, I would
This
love High.
definitely seems like it would be better High.
Yeah, this would be a great album, High. Like, that was one of my favorite things to do, was be like, I wonder what this album would sound like High. I wonder what this album would sound like High. And I can't do that shit no more, and fucking, so I'm like, man, one day.
I still think that, I forget, that there was, you all did an audio theory radio where you talked about drugs and music.
Oh, yeah.
And I still think that's like one of the funniest episodes you all have done. Of just like some of the weird experiences
I
that
gotta,
you talked about in there.
I gotta listen to that, man. That was ages ago.
I only remember the ridiculous stuff. And even that I don't remember that well. Like the most that I've ever had is just the you know, where you're like, I am one with the music.
Oh, yeah. My fucking...
The bass line to Yours Is No Disgrace is in my soul, man.
My fucking... I had a beam come out of my third eye and I was swimming through the pyramids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love having,
there in the studio with Yes making this music.
Fucking... yeah, what was it, Zach? One of Zach's stories was like, he was so high, he was listening, I can't remember if it was a Green Day album or something, but
knowing him, it probably was.
Yeah, and he said that he felt like his soul left his body and was getting caught in the reel-to-reel tapes while they were recording the album. And I'm like, damn it, man, I wish I can get that high again.
I'll tell you one thing. The one thing I do remember that y'all said, which I can agree with, even though I have never smoked weed and then listened to Marilyn Manson. I mean, first off, I'd never smoked all that much. Marilyn Manson would not sound good high.
The best Manson album high is Smells Like Children, like, hands down.
Oh, that would sound good high. And probably the first album would sound good high, but like the later stuff, you'd just be making fun of him all the time.
Yeah, it would just turn into a riff tracks.
It'd just be like, damn, does he really think he's edgy in 2003 being like, don't take a big buzz singing his ass?
Yeah. Don't take a buzz singing his ass. That's still my favorite, like, song he did on that album. I'm like, this right here works.
So, like,
give me some metal swing music.
Because there's a lot of stuff on that album I love, but there's a lot of stuff on that album I'm like, it's 2003, man. You're not scary to people anymore.
Yeah, that was the moment in my life when I realized that, okay, Marilyn Manson is not... he has already came and done what he was meant to do. Now he's just here.
Tom Waits.
Yeah, so this album, apparently, this is when he started drinking real heavily.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that, because I don't know much about Tom Waits' life, because he's a pretty secretive dude.
Yeah.
Especially once he got with Kathleen Brennan, they say.
Yeah, like he kind of... He stays out of the limelight, but what's so crazy is, like, he stays out of the limelight, but pops out every once in a while, and everyone loves him. Like, it's so crazy that...
and it reminds me of Kate Bush. Because Kate Bush, like, obviously was a superstar in England in the 70s and 80s. But after that one 90s album, she just, like, dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah, and she pops out every once in a while.
Exactly. She pops out, like, once a decade, drops an album, everybody goes crazy over it, she goes back into obscurity.
Yeah, which is cool, because, like, Tom Waits is one of them dudes that, in a way, he's using, and nowadays especially, he's using he's living the dream in the way anybody should, you know, like, you're still making money, you're still selling out when you go tour, you might be in a movie or two, but you still have a private personal life, and nobody's, like, putting your nudes on the internet.
That sounds like nightmare fuel.
Oh God.
Like, that's a mental image I did not want. So I was gonna ask about that because like a lot of Tom Waits' later songs are like like, especially when you get to the next album we're going to be talking about, you're like, this is a dude who has had some problems with alcohol in his life.
Yeah.
Like this comes from this, like you listen to something like I mean, hell, I'm just gonna come out and say, you listen to like Tom Traubert's blues and you're like, that comes from a real place.
Yeah.
You can't fake that. That comes from a real place.
Oh yeah.
So he did have a drinking problem for a while.
Definitely.
I kind of figured that, but I didn't know.
And, you know, he's the kind of dude that you would expect to have a massive drinking problem. But another thing this album does is this is the first time you really get that slight change in his voice where it's more raspy and this is where you're starting to hear eventually what Tom Waits would become. Let me turn on one of these tracks for a second here. This is...
It was all upon a foggy night, an abandoned road.
Like, he's still got that Saturday night voice, but it's a little more scratchy. It sounds a little more... on this album, he sounds like he hasn't slept for days.
Yeah, he sounds slightly hungover, hasn't slept, you know.
Maybe a little drunk too.
Definitely a little drunk. You know, getting that like remedial hangover cure.
Yeah, a little bit of the hair of the dog.
Curing your hangover with drunkenness. But something that really starts here that you get a lot more, and then it kind of goes away to an extent. The song titles.
Yeah.
Like Emotional Weather Report.
Yeah.
Intro to Eggs and Sausage in a Cadillac with Susan Michelson. In warm beer and cold women.
But see, what I like here is with Emotional Weather Report is it says here it says Tom Waits came out and sang Emotional Weather Report, and then he turned around to face the band and read the classified section of the paper while they played.
This sounds like it.
I fucking love that shit, man. Like, let me see if I can find that bit on the song.
Ridge extending from my eyes down to my cheeks, and precipitation is expected.
I really couldn't find it, but yeah, that's some good shit on this album.
I couldn't find it either.
Some good shit on this album, man, all the way, like
I love, like, again, this is one where it's all about a vibe.
Yeah.
And that vibe is like, you're at a club, and there's a really good jazz band. Like, not a professional grade jazz band, although I guess they were, the studio guys were. You know, but a good bar jazz band.
Yeah.
And then you've got this singer, you know, maybe he's with them, maybe he just came up on the stage and they just let him go, you know.
Yeah.
And he's just doing an intimate kind of club type, small club performance while you sip your cocktail in the back.
Yeah. Like,
and that's what I love about this album. It's not one I put on a lot. I think I said that before, but I love it when it's on.
Yeah, it's one that I actually nowadays I listen to it more out of most of his early stuff just because of that vibe. But it's an album that for me, like I said, it would probably be amazing high as fuck. But nowadays, a lot of times I like to just sit there, drink some heavy ass beer, and listen to music. And this is an album that, like, I have to have a beer when I'm drinking it nowadays. Like, oh, when I'm listening.
You know, I was just gonna say that. Like, you have to have a drink in your hand.
Yeah, like, it's one of them things where, like, if I'm drinking a beer, I gotta have a cigarette a lot of the times. Or if I'm drinking chocolate milk or coffee, like, a cigarette just works with it. But with this album, man, a beer, I gotta have a beer with it.
like that's like the funny thing of, like, you know, all of Tom Waits' early stuff, it's beer and wine music all the way.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Is this album beer or wine? This one's definitely beer.
I think.
Or cocktails too, maybe.
Cocktails, and then when you get to, like, Swordfish Trombones on up, you are drinking straight hard liquor.
Yeah, you're just like...
You have to have a cheap whiskey in your hand when you're listening to, like, Bone Machine or Real Gone.
Yeah.
One of those.
I don't want to go. So what would you rate this one?
I was thinking about giving it a 7, but I'm going to give another 7.5.
Yeah?
Because it's as good as Heart of the Saturday Night to me. It's I don't play it a whole lot, like I said. I probably do play Heart of the Saturday Night more, but I enjoy it a lot more when I play it than I enjoy Heart of the Saturday Night.
Yeah.
It's just that it's a long album.
It is. It's 73 fucking minutes, man.
And you gotta be in the mood for it. You really have to be in the mood for it.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like, I'm going to give it an 8 just because of how much fun I have with it. But it's definitely one where, like you said, it's just almost like Heart of Saturday Night, but way sillier.
Yeah.
Like, there's none of that heavy emotional kind of lyrics. This is just like a fun album, like.
And it's the last time, in a way, it's the last time we get to see, like, that fun Tom Waits, like, unadulterated. Because, like, there's fun stuff on all of his albums to this day, but it's counterbalanced by a lot of very dark stuff.
Yeah. Like, this one is just a fun little night out. If the last album was wandering around on some shady New York alleyway at 3 a.m, drunk off your ass with you've already been mugged twice.
You gave a homeless man $10 because you were drunk.
Yeah, seriously. This album is, you know, right before that. You know what I mean? Like, this is what you were doing before you were wandering the streets. Drunk as fuck and all wasted. Like, this is you and your buddies. Yeah, man, we're having a really good time. Then everybody leaves, and then you get in your head a little too much, and you're a little depressed. So you're wandering the streets. Like, what am I? What am I?
That's to me. That's what this next album is.
Man, this next one. Whew.
Small Change.
It's another.
That is a heavy album.
Yeah, Small Change. Now, fun tidbit. The album cover, the stripper in the background. Everybody says this go-go dancer is Cassandra Peterson, best known as Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, but she herself says she's not sure of the authenticity of this claim. Now, like, either it is or it isn't, and I would love to say that it is, because at how old is she now? I mean,
she's up there. You know,
Yeah, and
she's not that much. Tom Waits is 70,
yeah,
and she's 68.
and she could still get it. Like, that's some straight G-MILF
Tom
shit.
Waits is 70, and she's not that much younger than he is.
Yeah, that's some straight G-MILF shit right there. Like all the way, all the way. But anyway, she says she must not remember, but I would like to believe that is her because I mean, you know, you could just about see.
How cool is that you have a Tom Waits album with Elvira on the cover?
Yeah, and her tittens are hanging out to play, just about.
Oh God, yeah, they are. Well, I mean, what is? You do have that track where it's pasties and a G-string at the 2 o'clock club.
Oh, God, I love that song. That one is one of those awesome, weird description, dirty fucking songs, man, of Tom Waits.
I do think my favorite on here is probably The Piano Has Been Drinking.
Yeah, The Piano Has Been Drinking, not me. That is one that is sort of him making fun or taking light of his drinking problem.
Yeah. And it's for some reason that's a Tom Waits track that I always go back to.
Oh yeah.
Like I love some of these lyrics. The telephone's out of cigarettes and the balcony is on the make.
I fucking love it, man. This is when you really get that cryptic ass Tom Waits lyricism, and also this is when you get the voice that Tom Waits uses
uses to this day.
Yeah, still uses to this day that in the name of
that like Louis Armstrong meets Captain Beefheart voice.
Yeah, and he even is this the album like he throws in that lisp sound?
I don't remember which one that is.
Cause he throws in like these lisps that let me turn one on for a second, see if I can get that here.
It's nice work if you can get it. Now, who the hell said it?
Or maybe not really a lisp, but like he really throws a heavy inflection on his S sounds.
Yeah, I got that. This has maybe my favorite of his early list songs. Step Right Up.
Oh yeah, Step Right Up is great.
Like I love how it gets increasingly strange and disturbing towards the end.
Oh yeah. Let me turn that on.
Like I love. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let me turn that on for a second.
Size fits all. No muss, no fuss, no spills. You tired of kitchen drudgery? Everything must go. Going out of business, going out of business, going out of business.
That shit is so good, goddamn.
Like when you get that bit where it's like, because it's effective, it's defective, it creates household odors, it disinfects, it sanitizes for your protection. You know? I love the bit where he's like, "You got it, buddy. The large print giveth, and the small print taketh away."
This dude, this motherfucker, man, so inventive with his lyrics, dude. Like I hate to say it, but out of all, well, I don't hate to say it. I mean, this to me is his best, my favorite one out of all his his early career. Like after this, I like all the albums a lot from here on out, but this one, man, I don't know. This is a heavy album with odd lyrics and man.
It's definitely like for me, and I'd have to listen to all of them a little more. It's a big toss up for me with Heart Attack and Vine, this one, and Closing Time, because I really like all three.
Yeah.
But each one I like for different reasons.
Yeah, and I love shit out of Heart Attack though. That one right there is like.
This is definitely the one where it gets dark and it gets sad.
It sure does.
You open up with Tom Traubert's Blues, which I think in a way is maybe his most famous song.
Huh.
That is famous for him singing it, not that some other late 70s pop act covered. Because it's one that you consistently hear people talk about, it's certainly, I think it's probably the most famous song of his that nobody else covered that got famous from this period. I think Old 55 and New Coat of Paint are probably more known, but not as Tom Waits songs. If you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and that is just, that track, if you have ever been drunk and depressed, and especially if you have ever been drunk and depressed while wandering around a city at night,
yeah,
you feel that track, because I guess it's about this character who's gone to Copenhagen and he wants to go home, but every piece of money he gets his hands on, he spends on booze. So he's never gonna go home, and it's such a, that track hits you hard, or at least it hits me hard.
Yeah.
And it is. Let me pull up some of these lyrics, because that's another one that has great lyrics. I think the one that always sticks out to me is the bit, what was it, the bit where he's like, and no one speaks English and everything's broken. And apparently, I guess there's two conflicting stories about how this song was written. And why. And I like to think that both of them are true somehow. The first story is that he was in Denmark and he met this woman named Matilda, and she showed him the city, and I guess they danced at one point. And the other story is that he was going to write a song about drunkenness, so he went down to the cheapo liquor store, bought himself a pint of rye, drank the pint of rye, staggered back home, threw it all up, and then wrote the song.
Which makes sense, because, like we said on the last album, that's when he was really starting to drink heavy. This album is like the pinnacle of that.
Yeah.
He says that
definitely
he was drinking more and more heavily, and life on the road was starting to take its toll on him. He said that he was sick through that whole period, and it started to wear on him. All the touring, he had been traveling quite a bit, living in hotels, eating bad food, and drinking too much. He says there's a lifestyle that's there before you arrive, and you are introduced to it. It's unavoidable. And yeah, you can definitely hear that all over this album. Like we talked about Saturday Night, how it's a jokingly version of just being in a drunken stupor, walking the alleys of New York. This is to the point where it's almost like, oh man, somebody should help this guy.
Yes. Well, it's like, I remember somebody wrote something about him once where they said that he ran into this problem, and that he had created this Tom Waits character.
Yeah.
And he kind of became the Tom Waits character.
Yeah.
For a period of time.
Which a lot of artists do that.
And it sounds like he was able to get out of it eventually. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, a lot of artists do that, where they sort of become that image that
Yeah.
and get lost in it. Some of them get lost in it and never come back. But yeah, Tom Waits. I think really too. I think Kathleen. I think him and Kathleen getting together was probably one of the best things to happen to him, life wise and career wise.
Yeah, definitely.
She kind of helped give him a foundation. You know, now he has something. Now he has something to lose at this point. You know what I mean? Like, oh well, if I get back in on that crazy shit I was doing, you know, yeah, I got a lot more to lose than just my life.
Yeah, definitely.
But man,
a lot of this album. It's what I'm gonna spoilers. I'm gonna rate it a lot higher than the last two.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think.
I remember a lot more.
I'm trying to think because I can't remember if it's this one or the next album or the one after it. There's one that has a heavy, a song that just sounds like a great old Hollywood noir kind of theme. It might not be this one, but let me turn this song on real quick. The small change, and let me see what happens. Okay, it's not small change that sounds like old Hollywood, but it's another one of them great, weird, crazy, I'm saying weird shit over some cool fucking music. Which is kind of a noir thing, like, you know, you got noir music in the background, it's like, you know, saying cool stuff. But you go ahead with what you were saying about your rating.
Hello.
Oh yeah, what's up? Are you there?
I am there. Apparently my microphone became disconnected somehow.
Oh, wow. Hilarious. So yeah, like I said, go on with what you were saying.
We're gonna have to edit that out.
Yeah.
Anyway, with what I forget where I was exactly. I think I was saying something about my rating, maybe.
Yeah.
Spoilers. It's another 8.5.
Right on.
Because this one has, like, out of all the, like, sappy, downbeat, late 70s sort of cocktail jazz albums that he made, this is the strongest songs on it.
Yeah.
Like, this is, like I said earlier, this is right up there with Closing Time and Heart Attack for me, because this one brings the dark stuff in a way that those two albums don't really. Like, oh man, shit, I gotta go for a minute.
All right.
Check something out.
All right.
I'll be right back.
Sweet. I gotta piss anyway. Okay. What's up?
So we're gonna have a bunch of stuff we have to edit.
Yeah,
you
but
have to edit, I should say.
it'll be easy because at this moment I turned the recorder off, so I know where to cut, and then the other one, you know, when your microphone went out, I'll be able to tell because you know you won't see those sound bars in the editing clip, so it'll be easy to see where all that stuff is.
Well, anyway, I gave this an 8.5 because it's like, to me, this one it has the best songs out of all of those, like, late 70s albums he put out. Like, I love Jitterbug Boy.
Yeah, definitely.
Where he's just like, he's playing this character of this drunk old man, like, telling about all these ridiculous accomplishments that he has. Like, he's like, I taught Mickey Mantle everything he knows. You know. It's great stuff. And then The Invitation to the Blues is great.
Oh, yeah.
And The One That Got Away Small Change got rained on with his own 38, which is another one of those like creepy, semi-spoken word kind of tracks.
Oh yeah.
That Tom Waits loves to do. And then, the ending track, Can't Wait to Get Off Work and See My Baby on Montgomery Avenue, I think, is great as well. That's the one that opens up with that piano riff that like makes me think it's gonna go into like some like classic jazz for a minute there, but then it goes into the track. And it's great.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like, these albums really, they fit in a way because, like, I've been on a crazy jazz kick for, like, the last month and a half of hearing all the jazz that I missed, like, Ornette Coleman and, like, the crazier John Coltrane, and I've just been buying Sun Ra albums, like, for the last month. And, like, this obviously isn't as crazy as that or even anywhere even remotely close, but it kind of fits in with that vibe, you know?
Yeah.
So what do you rate this album?
This album, for me, is, like I said, it's probably my favorite out of all the early albums, and just because I do like the more dark and depressing nature of it, and there's puns and silliness in some of the tracks, but not as silly as Nighthawks. And this is where some of the weird description tracks really start to stand out. This is where that voice, like we said, that Tom Waits voice is here at full force. And like you said, he still uses this voice today. Like, that this is when you get... I keep going to In the Neighborhood, but you know... Come on up to the house.
For some reason, like my go-to track when I'm imitating Tom Waits is, what is that track on Brain Doctor is like, Uncle Someone made a fortune back in World War II.
Oh,
yeah. Cheapskates and some things, and they'll never give a cent to you.
Doom, 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 doom.
What is that track? That's like the second track on the album, I want to say.
Yeah, that's the one with, and he gave it to Mr. Vice. Rain Dogs.
Cemetery Polka.
There you go, Cemetery Polka. Oh, God, I can't wait to get to these albums, though, man. Fuck.
So after Small Change.
Yeah, so, yeah, I give it this album, I give it a 9. Because to me, it's probably...
I can feel that.
Yeah, it's probably got some of the best of his early stuff. Even though there are a handful of tracks on these next couple albums that are better musically for me coming up.
Yeah.
Like, even like Foreign Affairs, the next album we're talking about. Fuck, it's a lot lighthearted than yeah, it's a nice break from the really heavy stuff. But this is where you first get where his crazy, his little weird shit is starting to come out a little bit. But man, the orchestral shit on this album is phenomenal. Jenny's Waltz, holy shit. That song is amazing. And when I was talking about the last album, the one that I was wondering sounded like old Hollywood, it's actually Potter's Field on this one.
Okay.
Potter's Field starts off with this. I just picture old LA, man, like old Hollywood LA, and fucking you see old videos of the Hollywood studios from back in the, let's say 30s, maybe after World War II era, Hollywood, people in suits, fucking hats. You've got that. It's another one I said that it feels like an old Hollywood noir kind of vibe. It's like got this dragnet kind of vibe to it. This sort of just the real noir. Like it was a case, but it wasn't just any case. You know what I mean? Like, and then the dame walked in the door. I mean, like, that's what it...
The dame was persuasive.
Yeah.
Somehow dames always seem to be that way.
Yeah, for real. Like, he's sitting at his desk, like, he has no cases, nobody. He's, like, about to go bankrupt.
He has his feet up on his desk, half a bottle of Jack next to him.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
the revolver's laid out in the desk.
Yeah, like, he might be playing Russian roulette, maybe he's not.
This is this blew me away because this is really jazzy and really not even jazzy, like old school pop.
Yeah.
Like where you'd have those string arrangements where you are just drowning in syrup.
Yeah. Man.
But he's singing about drunks and prostitutes and hookers.
Seriously,
all
it's
this stuff. While he's got these sappy ass strings backing him up, and some. I'm not gonna lie to you. There are tracks on this album where it doesn't work for me, but there's a lot of great stuff on here still. Like, I Never Talk to Strangers, that duet he has with, I believe, Bette Midler.
Yeah, Bette Midler. That's a great fucking song. Like, Bette Midler is top notch on that track.
Yeah, and I believe that track was actually the inspiration for the soundtrack album, or not for the soundtrack album, for the movie that soundtrack album he did for Coppola was based on.
Wow, really?
If I
remember
Heart correctly, let me pull Wikipedia up.
Because One from the Heart, man, that whole album feels like that track. Just the straight,
it does.
stringy jazz duet music.
It really does.
But while you do that, let me play Potter's Field for a second so the people know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
It was a case, but not just any case.
Yeah, I couldn't find that, and who knows whether that's true or not, but I read that somewhere.
But yeah, this is one of those where you're right, like some of the songs just get a little too sappy, but man, some of the tracks are so fucking good. Let me see this real quick. Oh, no, not that one. Is it Cypher Swans? Oh my god, which one?
I can put you wax, crack attacks, shoes, shine, down, break a magazine, whack.
Yeah, Barbershop. Barbershop sounds like some later Tom Waits shit.
Yeah, that's the thing that surprised me is I was always told that there was a clean break, and then early Tom Waits and later Tom Waits they're completely different. But I find that, like, throughout the second half of his early career, the weirdness starts to seep in.
Yeah, like you hear this bit of evolution, and you're like, okay, this is a, we're getting there, like, but yeah, people do say it's a clean break, because in a way you could say that easily. I mean, just because of,
I get it.
like, now I would say clean break if it went from, let's say Small Change to Frank's Wild Years. That would be the clean break, you
Yes.
know. But yeah, you get eased into it slightly if you follow his career. But
Yeah, you definitely do. And this is, unfortunately, this is one where I love Barbershop. I'm totally with you there. But there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff on this album that I don't remember,
yeah,
and that brings it down for me. Like, it's not a bad album, but I don't remember a lot of stuff from it, and I remember less from it than I remember from, like, say, Heart of Saturday Night.
and what's crazy is you could say that you don't remember it, but I mean, because you could say maybe it's Tom Waits by Numbers, but what's so crazy is it's not early Tom Waits by Numbers, because man, the instrumentation on this album is like miles ahead of what his earlier albums were doing. Like, this isn't smooth fuck jazz, man. Like, there's a lot of old Hollywood in this album that
There really is.
that just, man, like, the musical portions are so great. But like, take A Sight for Sore Eyes real quick. Let me turn this on. See, he plays Auld Lang Syne for a second.
Yes, he does. I'm so glad you played a little bit of that. And I mean, I still can't hear it, but I played a little bit of that on my own end. Where, like, that one, I was like, wait a minute, this verse sounds like In the Neighborhood.
It does, doesn't it?
Because it's like, it's like, that kind of thing, and I keep expecting to hear In the Neighborhood.
And then, like, Chinny's Waltz, man. Let me turn that on for a second. God, that's just so fucking good. Hold on. Yeah, oh, fuck, man, Chinny's Watts. It's an instrumental track, man, it just hits me. Like two of my favorite songs on here, all the way, Chinny's Waltz, Potter's Field, those are fucking phenomenal. The orchestra, his piano, the jazziness, like the horns on Potter's Field, fuck! Cause I'm a massive old Hollywood fan. Like, I might not be well versed in the movies, but that whole vibe of Hollywood just starting to become what Hollywood would be, you know, that golden age of fucking black and white films moving into color a little bit, and man, I don't know. Fuck, Chinny's Watts fucking does it. That piano line. Na, 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 na. Fuck, dude.
Yeah, it's a damn good album. But it's it's one of those where it's like I never remember that I like it.
Yeah, like, totally agree, because other than, the rest of the album is fine, but these two tracks, man, are the ones that I'm like, they're the only ones I ever really get in the mood to listen to.
Like, to me, this one and Blue Valentine are kind of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Feel you there.
Because they like, after Small Change, because Small Change is so good. And these two add a lot to the Tom Waits sound, but they do not match the quality of Blue Valentine, or not Blue Valentine, Small Change.
Yeah, I would say probably lyric-wise. But I don't know, I think mixing the orchestra to a lot of his stuff kind of really does it for me on this album.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's something about that like does not fit, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
Like, it creates this kind of old school schmaltziness that I think really, it fits the persona Tom Waits was running with at the time.
Yeah.
Is definitely the way I would put it. Yeah, it's definitely how I would put it.
But a lot of these songs too. Go ahead, what's that?
No, you continue.
A lot of these songs too, like I said, that like a lot of his songs kind of start off the same. Like, I'm gonna turn the beginning of Foreign Affair on. Check this. So there's Foreign Affair. Let me see. We get. Was it Muriel? Little piano flourish. Never talk to strangers.
Bartender, I'd like a Manhattan, please.
Oh, but I love that. Bartender, I'd like a Manhattan, please. But yeah, a lot of his songs just kind of start off the same with this little piano flourish. But man, to me, the best stuff on here, definitely Barbershop. What is this? Burma Shave? So yeah, that's about the same. But man, Barbershop, Potter's Field, Chinny's Waltz. Man, if the rest of the album to me held that same kind of quality that those 3 tracks do for me, man, I would rate it a lot higher. But go ahead with what you're saying.
I was going to give my rating because I really don't have much more to say about this. I rate this. It's a 7.
Yeah.
It's a 7.
Feel you there.
It's a big step down from Small Change, and it's one of those albums where it's like, it's not the same when you hear an album in hindsight, with 40 years, as when you hear an album when it was new. And if I had been a Tom Waits fan, I would have been worried at this point in his career. Like, you ever get that? You ever get that with an artist where you're getting it all just archival or discographically because it's years have passed now.
Yeah, where
and you think, man, if I had been a fan at the time, I would have been pissed. Oh, well, this isn't one where you would have been pissed, but I would have been a little concerned.
Yeah, like anytime there's like a big discography I'm diving into, like I normally have an idea of when I'm going to get into some of the more subpar stuff because it's been around so long and I'm doing a little research and I'm like, okay, I know that these might not be the ones that I really get into all that much, and I feel it. I'm like, man, if I was alive at this point buying this stuff, because there's artists now that I follow that, I get there, like hell, like with Zach and the new Green Day album, it's like Green Day's kind of been subpar for a decade now.
Yep.
And
they did 21st Century Breakdown, which is good, but it's not as good as American Idiot.
Yeah, not as good, but still epic enough to be.
And then that trilogy was just weak.
Yeah, I gotta listen to those again. We're talking about doing a ranking the Green Day albums, and so I got a lot of shit to listen to.
Cause I'd love to hear y'all like do another Speaker Brains, because I feel like I know you've said that Warning you've completely changed your opinions on.
Yeah, because the sad thing is, a lot of those early Audio Theory retros I'd like to redo, because I wasn't fully versed in a lot of that shit. When we were talking about, and even so, like I hadn't even heard all the albums on some of those at that point. Like I'd love to redo the Weird Al one. I'd love to redo the Mastodon one. I'd love to redo the Cradle of, well, maybe the Cradle of Filth one. Even though like the handful of albums I hadn't heard at that point. And to me, I think, well, I did review all the Cradle of Filth eventually on separate little videos, so I probably wouldn't revisit them. But there's a couple I'd like to redo just because.
I'd be down to redo Gorillaz if you ever wanted to do that.
Yeah, I'd like to do another Gorillaz, man. Me and you should definitely jump on Gorillaz.
Yeah, but with not to bring him up again, I think he's like Marilyn Manson's like a specter that haunts both of us.
Oh yeah.
When you did that ranking, I was like a perfect example. I like you. I loved the Pale Emperor.
Right.
I got it when it was the year it came out. I think it got it in August. Loved the Pale Emperor. It was the Manson I wanted to hear. When Heaven Upside Down came out, it was like you with Eat Me, Drink Me. I was like, I am done, Manson. I am done with you. If all you're gonna do is like make a good album and then go back to the same old shit you've been doing for 20 years.
Like I said, I got so many high hopes for this new one he's working on. Because him and Shooter did so well on Cat People.
Yeah. It's like I've got to go, at some point I've got to go back and re-listen to Heaven Upside Down, because like in the moment I was just so like viscerally disappointed.
I still, like, when I listened to Heaven Upside Down again right before we did our ranking, and I'm still like, man, it's just... Like, I liked it a little more, but not enough. Like, oh, man.
Yeah, but like... Yeah, so I give Foreign Affairs a 7. And
yeah.
Did you give it a 7 too?
Yeah, it's a 7. It's a 7 because, like, there's only, 3 songs that I absolutely love on here. But, man, do those songs go hard. Those songs, man, musically just fucking do me in. And I hate that the rest of the album doesn't. Like, 4, because I love Never Talk to Strangers. And so 4 tracks really fucking do it for me. And the rest of it is, I'm not going to call it filler, but I'm just going to call it samey. You know, same shit, different album in a way, but with 4 really outstanding tracks.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it too. It's got a couple good tracks, but like, damn, is there some uneven stuff on here.
Yeah, like I was saying, like if the rest of the album hit hard with that sound, that old Hollywood sound, man, it would easily be a 10. It would easily be a 10, just because of how good those 4 songs are. If the rest of the album was that good, oh man, I wouldn't even care about, what he's singing about, man. The music was so good on those 4 songs that it's like, I'm not even listening to the lyrics. I'm like, I'm listening to this fucking band play this old Hollywood shit.
Yeah. It's... So Blue Valentine.
Yes, Blue Valentine.
This is where the change really starts to pick up steam.
Yeah.
Because this one is where the blues starts to creep into his... Like, he's been singing about the blues for a while now, and the blues has always had a weird relationship with jazz.
Yeah.
Like, you listen to a lot of, like, old school blues. Like Cab Calloway blues. It sounds like jazz, and it kind of is jazz.
Yeah, but there's a
A lot
lot
of jazz dudes played the blues. But this
fucking love Cab
starts
Calloway.
hitting on what?
Fucking love Cab Calloway. I bought a 4-disc box set of his last year. Man, it's so good.
I still need to check him out. He's one of those people where I hate to say that my introduction to Cab Calloway was the Blues Brothers, but it totally was.
Mine was that old, that old Betty Boop, Minnie the Moocher cartoon.
Yeah.
And after buying that box set, I had no idea that there were sequel songs to Minnie the Moocher, and I had no idea that these were characters that he just kind of kept bringing back up. Like, wow, this is fucking cool.
Well, what I was gonna say is Blue Valentine is where Tom Waits starts to shift from bluesy jazz to the stuff that I think most people nowadays associate with the jazz, or not with the jazz, but the blues, which is the more guitar blues.
Yeah. And when does Keith Richards start jamming on his albums?
I think
because he's
Rain Dog.
Oh, I would believe that, yeah, because he's not on this one yet. But man, Keith Richards is a guy whose guitar sound on Tom Waits stuff is so perfect.
Well, we'll talk about we'll talk about that when we get to there. But I think Keith Richards also started working with Tom Waits because that was Rain Dog. That was a point when the Rolling Stones were garbage.
I don't believe it.
Garbage. Their last okay album in the 80s was their last great album is Tattoo You. The last decent one is Under Cover of the Night. But the album they put out in 86 is worthless. It is awful. But yeah, I hate to say this with Foreign Affairs because it's better than not Foreign Affairs. Blue Valentine's better than Foreign Affairs.
I like it more.
Anything from this album.
Say what?
I hate to say it because I remember being better than Foreign Affairs, but I don't remember anything from this album.
Yeah, this one is, like you said, yeah, the blues is heavily in the forefront on this one, and it's a little less smooth fuck jazz. And I like that a lot more. But what is I need to do a refresher here for a second. Red Shoes by the Drugstore.
On the midway, there's a little blue jay, red dress.
Yeah, that's a great song. And then what is this? Yeah, his Somewhere from West Side Story is phenomenal
it's
on here.
Great.
Man.
I love Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis.
Yeah, let me turn that one on for a second.
Charlie, I'm pregnant, living on 9th Street.
Yeah, that's a great song. And let me see, Romeo is Bleeding. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Romeo is Bleeding is one. You get that organ in there. That's another one where, that later Tom Waits is kind of seeping through. See, $29. Oh, yeah.
I hate to say it, because, I marathoned Tom Waits the last 2 days, and I hate to say, this was the point where I was starting to get a little bit of burnout.
I can believe it.
And the Blue Valentine and Foreign Affairs just were not doing it for me. And even though, a lot of these tracks are really good.
Yeah, It's crazy.
I love the title track.
Yeah, the title track is great. Because $29 is such a great like blues track. Let's see. Yeah, this album is awesome, man. Now that I'm getting my little refresher in, Whistling Past the Graveyard. Yeah. Yeah, Whistling Past the Graveyard, heavily into later Tom Waits kind of territory. Kentucky Avenue. Kentucky Avenue is about average. Yeah, sweet little bullet from a pretty Blue Gun. That's a great
Pretty
one.
Blue Gun.
Yeah, Pretty Blue Gun. And yeah.
Like half-forgotten dreams.
Yeah. Blue Valentine reminds me a lot of Kiss Me Like a Stranger Again.
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, this album, like, wow. I hate that, because it's one that, it's one of the, I bought maybe 2 years ago when I was finally finishing off my Waits collection, and I didn't give it the credit it was due, but I was much happier that it was more blues and stuff as opposed to the smooth fuck jazz. And man, this, wow, after finally like refreshing up on some of these tracks, because I listened to these albums in passing over the past couple days. Like, I would turn them on when I'm cleaning up the house or whatever. Wow, I guess I really wasn't paying that much attention when I turned this one on. Wow, like, this is I'm going to have to listen to this one all the way through again, without distraction, because some of these tracks are like really hitting me right now in a positive way.
Yeah, there's a bunch of these I'm going to have to go back to. Like, I went back and after I had finished up with the soundtrack album, I went back and I listened to those first two albums once again, because they had kind of faded. And this is one I completely agree. I'm definitely going to have to go back to and listen to again. It's a 7. It's another 7.5 to me. It's not. What was to come blows this out of the water for me.
Yeah, this is definitely where a lot of the later Tom Waits sound bleeds through heavily, and it's like I said, I got to listen to it without distraction, and I'm gonna give it a 7 now, and that might change by the time we do the second half of his career, because man, these tracks are sounding pretty good. Like, even the West Side Story track, man, that orchestra, fuck, man. Damn. That's like a leftover from Foreign Affairs kind of orchestral flourish. But damn, yeah, definitely a 7 right now. Might change, because I love Whistling Past the Graveyard, like, already. I just had to remember what the fuck that was. But then in that, pow, but then in that, wow, like, man, dude. Yeah, 7 all the way. Is you there?
I am there.
Oh, right on, right on. So are we moving on?
We are moving on. We are moving on to Heart Attack and Vine.
Heart Attack and Vine. And I love this album cover, this dirty looking newspaper.
Yeah, with his face on it.
Yeah, just
and
looking.
all the song titles and maybe even lyrics on the The cover is great.
Yeah.
You remember I said that when I was listening to all of these albums, I was getting burned out. Like, I was seriously getting burned out when I was on Blue Valentine and Foreign Affairs. I was like, oh, this is not good. As soon as I put on Heart Attack and Vine, my ears perked up, and I was like, oh, man, this is where things start to change.
Yeah, this is one where...
Because as soon as the album begins, you've got that bluesy, weird shit Tom Waits does.
Yeah.
And it's not as weird as it would get, but, like, it's such a breath of fresh air after those last two albums.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's like he's taken what he did on Blue Valentine and really giving it the Tom Waits spin.
Yeah. And this is the title track, the one that has that one of my favorite Tom Waitsisms of, like, there ain't no devil, it's just God when he's drunk.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn that on a second here.
Have yourself a heart attack and fine. Talk to Lord, you beggar man thief.
Yeah, that right there, man. Like, people talk about that clean break, man. People say his sound shifted. Like, yeah, Swordfish Trombone really shifted, but this one, man, this is that missing link kind of album right here.
It definitely is.
Yeah, where it's like, boom, the old sound really moving into the new sound of the Tom Waits stuff. What is In Shades here? Yeah, the guitar. Oh, yeah, the guitar. Like this one and the last album, especially this one though, the guitar is much more in the forefront. Like on all the albums before this, like the guitar is really absent from his sound, and it's almost like he discovered that the guitar was an instrument. It's like, oh, this is the thing I can put in here, all right. And man, like the guitar sounds so dirty on this album, and oh, it's so good.
And he starts to do that kind of jaunty blues thing, like Downtown.
Yeah. Yeah, let me turn Downtown on for a second here. Yeah. Oh, God, yes. Good fucking shit, man. And what is Saving All My Love for You? Got a little bell tolls in there.
It's too early for the circus. So late for the bars.
Yeah. Normal kind of Tom Waits fare, but yeah, that one sounds like one of his later kind of style ballads.
It does. Like, this really is a transition album.
Definitely.
Like, this is where that change, you catch that, and like it's rare that you get an album that like so perfectly captures the change halfway through.
Yeah.
The way this one does. And then of course you got Jersey Girl, which Bruce Springsteen made famous, and is that possibly what the Kevin Smith movie is named after?
I don't know. I mean, probably, but I always, looked at it like that's just always kind of been a saying, and plus Kevin Smith's films are always like in Jersey, and I figured like maybe it was like maybe it's a reference, but at the same time, you know, it could just be just that saying. I have no idea, but yeah, I wonder. But that's definitely Kevin Smith I don't like to fuck with.
Well, I was gonna say, like, Jersey Girl is definitely where, for me, you know, I know you and Frank Del Vecchio are Askew-niverse acolytes.
Yeah,
you know, you love that. You love some Kevin Smith. For me, I love to hear Kevin Smith talk.
Yeah, definitely. His podcasts, his stand-up talking shit videos, like
exactly.
That's a dude
Hell, I mean,
that
one of those clips that you can see of that what was that the name of that doc that thing he did in the early 2000s of what was it, An Evening with Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of those clips you could find out on YouTube is in the auditorium where I went to college.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's one of the times that he's telling the John Peters giant spider story.
Yeah.
But to make a long story short, like, I don't really mess with Kevin Smith after Dogma.
Oh yeah.
Like, I've seen some of his films. I saw Tusk. You know, I've seen Red State. You know.
Tusk is stupid fun, man. I love Tusk.
Good enough, but like, to me, nothing after Dogma is as good as Dogma.
I would say like that's like my favorite one, especially in his Askew-niverse. But
yeah.
I don't know. I just love the Askew-niverse. The Askew-niverse is like, it's not like Jackass, but it does like Jackass does for me, where it hit me at a time in my life, in my youth, where I'm like, this right here. Like, it came to me at the most perfect time, where I'll always follow the Jackass crew. When they did Viva La Bam and Wild Boys, massive fans of that stuff. Always follow the movies. And so same thing, anytime he does a movie within the Askew-niverse, I'm all for it. Even if it's like, it might be subpar, like, I'm still like, I just love these characters so much and just love seeing where they go from here. Because it's like, the characters grow, and I grew, you know? It's like that perfect thing. It was like, those movies, the early ones spoke to me when I was a kid, and then the new ones are speaking to me as an adult. It is crazy.
Yeah, I get that. But, like, so Jersey Girl's a great track.
Yeah, let me turn that on for a second.
And I'll take you all right.
See, yeah, that's another one that definitely, you know, you could put this album, or you could put that song on Mule Variations, and no one would notice the difference.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, you could definitely put that on there. And then on the Nickel, I love, but it gets long.
Yeah.
It gets long.
And what's crazy is the last two albums each had an 8-minute song. And Potter's Field is one of those 8-minute songs, but I'm having fun those whole 8 minutes. But yeah, Tom Waits, a lot of his stuff to me does not work when you get over 5 minutes sometimes. But yeah, let me turn on the Nickel for a second. Yeah, that's a little long for one of his orchestral ballads. That's 6 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a little long. That's pushing it, buddy.
Thankfully, Mr. Siegel and Ruby's Arms bring it back, though.
Yeah, let me get those on a second.
I'll spend all my money.
Mexican Whorehouse, man. Come on, Ruby's Arms. Yeah. Yeah, Ruby's Arms. Holy fuck, those horns at the beginning. A lot of people credit his shift to Kathleen Brennan showing him Captain Beefheart, but he was having a shift before that. But you could
he was already there, kind of.
Yeah, definitely. This album is easily on par with some of his 90s albums and late 80s albums, definitely. But I guess in a way it was like he was putting the feelers out, and then she shows him Captain Beefheart, and that's when he said, you know what? I can do this shit too.
Yeah, and that's I'd be interested to know where because when you get to Swordfish Trombones, and especially Rain Dogs, that's where what I like to call Tom Waits persona number 2 comes in, where it's no longer I'm a barfly. It is I am the king of the rail yard hobos.
Yeah, this is where the songs, but he's always had songs about seedy characters, but that's where it's like he becomes a seedy character.
Yeah. So, I rate this 8.5.
Yeah, this one definitely a 9 for me.
Yeah, it's a great album, and it's got a lot of that weirdness that will dominate his stuff in the 80s.
Oh yeah. And mostly just dominate the rest of his career,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, the next album, the last one we're going to talk about today, this is a soundtrack to
Francis Ford Coppola's One from the Heart.
One of the more notorious flops of the 80s.
Yeah. And what's so crazy, this is what tripped me out. I knew it was gonna be a jazzy kind of record. I knew that. But man, if this isn't a straight up, I'm going back to smooth fuck jazz. Only this time, I'm doing it with a girl.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, the lady here, Crystal Gale, is actually she's a country music singer, but who is she related to? She is, the sister. She is Loretta Lynn's sister. Classic.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, classic country Loretta Lynn. Sisters. Which is wild. When I learned that when I bought this album, I was like, whoa, really? Wow. And I might be wrong here. Who is the coal miner's daughter?
I don't know.
Is that Loretta Lynn? I'm probably definitely wrong. There's another big country lady that is the coal miner's daughter.
I don't know my country. I mean, her father was a coal miner, so I'm looking on Wikipedia, but I don't know my country music at all. I hate to say it, but I was one of those people who got turned off of country music by that awful bro country we had in the 2000s. And honestly, what was maybe even worse to me, the where were you when they built the ladder to heaven?
Yeah, country music on the radio has been garbage for decades. And the sad thing is, real country music is in the underground right now with the cowpunk scene, the scene over in Portland, Oregon with, I've mentioned it many times, with bands like Builders and the Butchers, and even coming from Canada with the Dead South. That's the real country to me. There's, the Bridge City Sinners, like that's real fucking country, and they're mixing it with, there's a lot darker. They're mixing a little more punk rock in there. Hank Williams 3 definitely. Country music in the mainstream has always been about 20 years behind everything else. Country
definitely since the 70s.
definitely. Because, country in the 70s still kind of sounded like country, but around the 90s, that's when country started to sound like classic rock with a violin. And now they're just now adding hip-hop to mainstream country and being successful when rock music did that 20 years ago.
25 years ago.
So mainstream country is just always behind everything. But where
I hate to say this, but mainstream country to me, it's mainstream country has mutated in this bizarre direction where it's not even, to me, it's not even really country music anymore. It's hip hop for people who are scared of black people. And it's rock for people too Christian to listen to rock music.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That is definitely true. There's no grit, there's no teeth, there's no outlaws, there's nothing. There's nothing. No substance, nothing at all. And, it's complete garbage. But where country music is pushing the boundaries is in the underground with a lot of the artists that I just mentioned. And I'll listen to that shit all day. But man, turn on some Kane Brown, and I'm ready to kill myself. Fuck. But yes, Loretta Lynn is the coal miner's daughter. They made that movie, pretty good movie with Tommy Lee Jones and what's her name, Sissy Spacek is playing Loretta Lynn. Pretty damn good movie. But yeah, back to One from the Heart with Crystal Gayle.
This is the one where I said that I was burned out. I was getting burned out. Heart Attack and Vine brought it back, and I was really into Heart Attack and Vine. And then this one kind of took it back.
Yeah, I've only listened to this album twice.
I'm probably prejudiced because I listened to it for the first time last night as I was going to sleep.
Yeah. There's a line on this album. There is a line on one of these songs. I can never remember which song. But he says, I've got a hat box for a drum and a bottle for a horn. And I'm like, no you don't. But you will.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You will. Pretty soon you'll have that hat box, Tom. And pretty soon
Give it about a year.
Yeah, in about a year. You're almost there. But you don't have it now. What old boyfriends? Let me turn this on for a second.
Yeah.
With someone that
Crystal Gayle is fantastic on here, It's just
this is not the kind of more you can say this to an extent about all of Tom Waits' early stuff, but this is not the music I want to be hearing.
Yeah, to me it's not as good as the early smooth folk jazz.
Especially after Heart Attack and Vine.
Yeah, especially after Heart Attack and Vine. This almost feels like a final hurrah for his early sound. And it's Heart Attack and Vine is such a album that is progressive musically, really moving forward. And this one, man, all the way back. You could put this in between, Small Change and Nighthawks, and no one would tell the difference, except for, the production.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is definitely not a favorite out of any of these early ones. But that too, you can't fault it. It's not technically an official studio album, even though
it's a film soundtrack, and
yeah.
It's one of those type deals where I'm sure a lot of these songs sounded great in the movie.
Yeah, they probably work in the movie. I've never seen the movie, the songs probably work well in the movie, but it's a soundtrack album, but they're all original, brand new songs that I know of. I don't know, could be some covers on here. All tracks written by Tom Waits. Yeah, so but yeah, I've got the 2004 issue that has 2 bonus tracks as well. But that's not helping anything. But
I want to say the movie bombed. It earned $636,000 against a $26 million budget.
Ooh, damn, Francis! What are you?
And I believe it was one of those final movies that killed that like auteur New Hollywood period that we were on in the 70s and to a lesser extent the 60s, like Stone Dead.
Oh yeah, that what was that? Was the New Hollywood thing that the 60s really kicked that off with shit like what the hell is that? The motorcycle movie, the Born to Be Wild movie. What is that? Easy Rider,
Easy Rider, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean,
Coppola brought it back though because I want to say the next year he did The Outsiders.
Yeah.
And that was huge. So.
Coppola has always been one of those iffy filmmakers for me, where it's he'll put out something really good, and then he'll put out something like fucking Jack, what did he have? He had something to do with Jack.
Or he'll put out a movie that, as a reviewer, I put it, Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is, as a reviewer, I follow to put it, it's a really good movie and a really awful movie. You abduct them, you put them in a bag together, tie them up, and throw them into the ocean while they're fighting. Where the movie's great, but the movie is a disaster all at once.
Yeah, I fucking love his Dracula movie. Oh man, it is so good. I love the shit out of it. The way it looks, the way it films.
It's a beautiful movie, but some of the acting. I mean, it's relevant because Tom Waits was Renfield.
Yes, right? Crazy. But yeah, Francis Ford Coppola made Jack with Robin Williams. God, I fucking hate that movie so much. Oh,
Robin Williams, man, I love Robin Williams. Rest in peace. He had a run of just bad movies.
But yeah, Coppola,
and I feel like nobody wants to talk about it anymore because he's dead now, and it's a horrible tragedy, But yeah, so what do you rate One from the Heart?
One from the Heart is it's a 5. It's just a 5. It doesn't hurt Tom Waits, artistically. It just hurts me.
I'm gonna give it a 5 too.
It's just average.
Right, but it's average. There's really nothing to say about it, and I almost hate that we're ending this on such a bad note.
Yeah, I really do.
But I guess we can talk a little bit for a very short time about how he got dumped from his label after Heart Attack and Vine.
Yeah, and was it Asylum?
I think Asylum. No, I think it was Asylum.
Yeah, Asylum. Because after this, he's on Island for
a long time.
Yeah, until about 93. After that, it's on from Mule Variations on up. He's on Anti.
Yeah.
But yeah, Asylum dumped his ass.
I've been told they dumped his ass because he was not. They wanted him to become a big star, and Tom Waits was never about that.
Yeah, he was never about that, and it's crazy when I think about his early albums. They're coming out at the same time that the musical landscape was not paying attention to this kind of stuff because heavy metal was just coming around. Prog was in the forefront. Fucking hard rock was the biggest thing. Disco, and then punk rock. Punk rock, was coming
synth
out.
Pop, glam rock,
Yeah. So it's like
new
him.
wave.
Yeah. So it's crazy. For some other artists from 78 and 80, you would expect that shift to go into the more post-punk and synth wave.
Yeah.
But instead,
And like,
when Tom Waits decides to shift, he's like, I'm just gonna fucking make graveyard music.
and when it's funny too, because like, this was at a moment when the music industry was getting way more commercial.
Yeah.
Than it had been for most of the 70s and the later 60s. Because, like, I don't want to overstate how much music was commercial, because, like, there's a lot of weird shit came out on major labels in the 80s.
Yeah.
And throughout the 90s, like, it's not like when you get to, like, the end of the 90s and, like, 96, 97, 98, 99, and especially, like 2000 to 05, and the major labels are just like, they are going through their rosters, they are cleaning house, they are kicking off anybody who is not a platinum seller.
Yeah.
Like, Del the Funky Homo Sapien got kicked off of Elektra in like 97 because they were like, you haven't had a hit single in 6 years, so we're done with you. Wilco got kicked off of, I want to say they were on Warner Brothers. They got kicked off of Warner Brothers in 2000 because Yankee Hotel Foxtrot was allegedly too uncommercial for Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Which had, Heavy Metal Drummer is one of the most commercial songs Wilco have ever done, and yet that album wasn't commercial enough for them, And that was. I don't want to compare it to like the days when, there was this feedback loop. You had TRL and MTV and the music industry, and they were like, we tell you what's popular, you buy it. What's popular is Limp Bizkit, Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, Korn. That's all there is. It's going to be bubblegum and new metal till the end of time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that. Like, it wasn't those days. Like people always look at me funny because I'm like, if you had to like pick a worst music year for me, I would go with the year 2000 all the way. Like, nothing that was popular I really liked or like now. But yeah, so Tom Waits' first half of his career, it's kind of uneven. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's very it's very just Tom Waits doing his thing, and then he gets heavy on the alcohol and does his thing better, and then slogs through a couple releases, and then puts out something really good, then gets dropped, makes a very subpar little soundtrack album, and just, this is not this is Tom Waits getting his name out there, but it's definitely not the Tom Waits that I absolutely love. Like, there's bits and pieces in there that shine on through the fold, but it's...
What's funny, because, like, you gotta think he probably lost a lot of fans.
Yeah.
Moving into the 80s.
He probably did, because, he probably had a big fan base that only liked smooth fuck jazz, and, but then you get Swordfish, and then Rain Dogs, and Frank's Wild Years, but, those albums definitely brought him fans that are a little more loyal.
Yeah.
So in a way, he might have lost a big chunk of his fan base switching over like that, but he's like I said, he's more well known for doing this weird shit, and for him to be the kind of artist who gets You know, now, all right, I'm a Gilmore Girls fan, and they're always, you know, name dropping awesome artists in that show. But like they've name dropped Tom Waits several times in Gilmore Girls.
Oh
Now,
my God.
yeah. So for a show like Gilmore Girls, to be name dropping Tom Waits in positive lights, like by the main characters, like you know, it's they're not talking about the smooth fuck jazz portion. You know they're talking about the Bone Machine and the Frank's Wild Years.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always love that. I see the GIF every now and again where it's I forget what movie it was. There was something with it where he was with Iggy Pop and he's like, well, if it's not your style, we can go to the Taco Bell down the street. And Iggy Pop's like, do I give off Taco Bell vibes or something? But yeah, how would you rate the first half of Tom Waits' career?
The first half would be... The first half... Man, this is going to be hard. I mean... I would give it a decent 8. Well, maybe a 7. I'll give the first half of his career a 7. A decent little 7. Because... I don't listen to hardly any of these albums all the time, at all, and because like I'm never into you know, I like that early kind of jazz sound, you know, but I'm never really seeking it out.
I can agree with that. So I feel like. Yeah, I contemplated giving it higher, I contemplated giving it lower, but 7 all the way, man.
Yeah, because there's some great shit.
It's not my thing.
There's some great shit, you know? But I'm never in the mood to really turn any of it on.
Yeah, like I like Closing Time a lot. I like Small Change a lot. I think Heart Attack and Vine in particular is one I'm probably going to go back to a lot.
Yeah, just because it sounds closer to the stuff we really like.
And closing Time because it just sounds so different.
Yeah, you could turn Closing Time on and nobody would know that's Tom Waits.
Yeah, exactly. Like it sounds like
even if they were well versed in the Saturday night version of Tom Waits, even if they hear that, they would most likely be like, "Damn, this sounds like Tom Waits," but they wouldn't truly be like, "Oh, well, okay, this is cool. This is Tom Waits." You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like Closing Time sounds like what I like about that cocaine folk kind of music.
Yeah.
That I was talking about. It sounds like the stuff from that genre that I like. So yeah, I've got to give it a 7 too. So.
But definitely, if I'm off next Saturday, you want to do the other part?
Sure, why not?
Hell yeah. Because I know next Friday we're gonna try and do the Deftones retrospective to have ready for March Metal Madness.
Hell yeah, I'm gonna be interested to watch that because they are such an interesting band.
Yeah, it's so much better than I ever gave them credit for.
Seriously. But anyway,
I used to just be like, oh, this is just new metal shit. But man, after listening to it, I'm like, wow, this is a lot higher than... Yeah, there's new metal in here, but wow, it's much more interesting.
Exactly. So you can find me at the Rustic Reviewer YouTube channel. I've at this point the Rustic Reviewer channel is kind of like Mystic Spiral. I talk about changing the name a lot, but I never do. And Travis, of course, is on Bloody Chuckle Studios, where this video will probably be posted.
Yeah, you'll find this video on the YouTube for Bloody Chuckle Studios, and you'll find it under the Speaker Brains on Horrorphilia.com, and it'll also be on Stitcher and Spotify. where you could find other podcasts and shit. Like, I just realized we were on Spotify and Stitcher because Jason Lloyd over at Horophilia handles all that shit. So, like, I had no idea, but yeah, we're on there.
I had no idea you were on there either.
Yeah, I just recently found that show. Like, whoa, okay, that's cool. But yeah, on Horophilia, you can also find other great podcasts like my buddy Alex. I keep wanting to say Alex Jones. It just rolls off the tongue so good. My buddy Alex Edwards and his Married with Children podcast, and Cut to the Chase, another buddy, Dan Chase, him and Lacey Lou. Really good podcasts over there.
That just makes me think of makes me think of the Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
And Alex Jones, and it makes me think of like The Phantasm is one of the best horror movies of the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, I damn sure miss Skeleton Crew, man. With Alex Edwards, and yeah, there's also like the ABCs of Hidden Horror with Jamie J. Sammons and Brian and shit. You know, like they're all your favorite Skeleton Crew guys are there, and they all still collaborate. But they might, I think they do Skeleton Crew as a Halloween special every year now. But yeah, I damn sure miss that podcast being as weekly as it was. That was a real fun podcast.
Yeah. But anyway, we will see you all whenever we get around to recording this podcast next.
Yeah, and hopefully we can get it next weekend. I still got to do the ones with Frank, man. I still got to get with Frank and finish off the Askewniverse. Because yeah, I'm trying to be more consistent on the YouTube channel, especially now that we're not doing anything like heavily edited. You know, like we're just a sitting and talking kind of channel now, except for whenever we do an occasional music video. Cause yeah, I have more fun talking about shit unscripted, man. I am over that channel awesome style shit. You know what I mean, dude?
Yeah, it's funny because I thought about it and I was like, you know, I kind of am too. Because every time, like, I do one or two a year, because they're just fun to do every now and then. But I don't do that stuff regularly anymore, because it's too much work to edit.
Yeah, like, especially, like, with my job, I'm easily working 60 hours a week, 58 hours a week easily. I just have no fucking time to do that shit, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's like even if you do have the time, that's a lot of, like, you could be doing other things.
Yeah, because, like, now I'm 34 years old, and, like, my favorite thing to do now is to just get drunk and buy CDs. That is my life, man.
And yeah, with the channel awesome dudes turning out to be such shitheads, it kind of put a bad taste in everybody's mouth.
Oh yeah.
About that whole style of content. Like,
yeah, like even the rock critic straight up was like, you know, I'm done with this format, and I actually like Crash Thompson's videos better now than when he did that rock critic shit.
I love his. I've never been the biggest fan of his reviews, but his worst Pitchfork reviews video.
Yeah.
Is one of my favorite things anybody's ever done, because God, some of those reviews suck.
Fucking Pitchfork, man.
Yeah.
I love. I
am so offended by this Tool album. I've got to go detox and listen to Yo La Tango.
There's that Amanda Palmer band she did with Jason Webley, Evelyn. Highly recommend listening to that if you're into weird, dark cabaret shit. But there is a line on there, let me find this real quick, where just the delivery alone is throwing shade at Pitchfork. And
Well, because I love there's a line on, I think it's Childish Gambino's first album. It's not a very good album, but it's an album, you know, where he's talking about being a black rapper who's not a gangsta, and he's like, Pitchfork's probably gonna something like Pitchfork's probably gonna downvote me because they only like street shit.
Yeah.
And Pitchfork gave him like a 4. So.
And I think it's the song. I think it's the song "A Campaign of Shock and Awe," and their delivery on this line. Oh my God, let me find these lyrics. Yes, here we go. I love the way they do this. They sing timeless new songs rife with double entendres as featured in Rolling Stone, Spin, The New Yorker, and Pitchfork. Pitchfork! It's so fucking funny. Yeah. People waited for that. And, but yeah, listen to the song Campaign of Shock and Awe, and, yeah, fucking love that shit. But yeah, so you guys can find us on all that shit we just mentioned, and we'll hopefully get this one out soon and eventually finish that Frank Zappa. That's just that lingering shadow, just like waiting in the room, tapping his foot.
Yeah, the twilight years.
But yeah, we'll see you guys later.